Alright, our launch of second half 2025 is here. I guess we have been patiently waiting for it. At the start of the year, I was very excited over our launch of first half Parktown Residences. Everything looked good. The floor plan was alright, the quality was good, everything was basically good lah. Now I was working along the price range of the like a low 2000 per square foot ish, all the way from like maybe 2002 to 2003. But in the end, what happened? They sold at a higher average per square foot than what was expected. Now granted, it had everything, but there's always a price even for anything that is good. Hence, ultimately, it wasn't a clear winner as I thought it would be like how EOK was for me last year. And in the blink of an eye, we are already fast approaching October and already coming close to 2026. Now, for those who are close to me, will know what my 2026 launch of the year will be. It's 100% going to be Thomson View. There's no other contenders. Unless they want to go hard on the price, it's going to be a blockbuster. But before we get to that, let's finish off 2025 lah, huh? And after going back and forth deliberating on the launches, the prices, the layouts, the everything, I think I can say, or rather I can finally say, look, this is it. Although it's not as clear as an option as EOK last year, I mean, it's also not 100% a clear winner, but this is my pick if I have to really choose one. Why? Because I always like to be cheap as such, try to find the one that hopefully makes the most money at every given opportunity. And before I start on this, I look at it purely from a product point of view. Now, this doesn't take into account of you stupidly buying into a super high floor unit unless you're buying for own use. Remember, every good launch, even with the likes of EOK, Nava Grove or anything good, there's always 30% of them who got it at a good price, then another 30% at a normal price, and another 40% hitting a like crazy range lah. Now, I'm just looking at it purely from an objective manner with the development attributes and probable selling price. That's all. Now, what do I mean by that? I will share with you at the end of this video what exactly that means. So, where does this launch bring us to? Well, it brings us to probably the one location that everyone knows that it is one neighborhood that is highly sought after. It is also a location that HDBs are transacting so frequently above $1 million that anything below $1 million is not the norm. Now, it's also a location that everyone knows that owners there have been making a lot, or rather minting a lot of money, and that location is Queenstown. And in today's episode of Picking the Right Launch, our launch of second half 2025, let's go to Penrith. Disclaimer, whatever I share does not constitute financial advice. It is solely based on my opinion on what is right or wrong. So please do your own due diligence. If you're liking the content so far, please hit the like and subscribe button as your simple gesture will help a lot with the YouTube algorithm. If you are interested to find out more about property related matters, please find all the social media handles I am on, or you can just directly reach out to me on WhatsApp. Separately, I have also set up a Telegram group at the start of the year so that we can have a discussion that we as agents are not allowed to do so online, which is to talk So if you are interested to get into a community that talks about everything under the sun about property, please scan the QR code, or for the boomers out there, I have pasted the link in my description. We're going to close the group invitation in probably a month or 2 times, so head over and I will see you there. Now back to the video. Okay, so just to get certain things out of the way first, my YouTube guy who manages my YouTube account, yes, I have someone doing that because I'm geeky and I'm quite bad at IT. He mentioned that according to stats, a lot of you guys who are watching are not subscribed. So please do me a favor, please help to like and share and subscribe. The contents are free. We agents these days, job was quite difficult, Need to do content like this, need to run viewings, need to do a lot of things. So please, can you kindly do us this favor? Thank you. Thank you. And I also want to say this one thing, I'm a PropNex agent by profession. I don't charge consultation fees, so just take me as your average agent out there, but probably with just more research and experience that comes with it, because there's one saying that goes like this: you can be hardworking and all, but no amount of money can buy you a single second of time and experience. And that's what I bring to the table. And if you find this video today helpful and you're planning to visit Penrith without an agent, just call me lah. Okay? Okay. So back to it, some context about Penrith. The land was purchased back in August 2024 at only like 1154 per square foot per plot ratio. Surprisingly, there wasn't much bids that went for this plot of land, and I'm actually very surprised for a location like Queenstown to put it out there how attractive the price is. The developers got this for 1154 per square foot per plot ratio. Now, Nava Grove got their land at 1225 PSF, Sky Holland paid 1285 PSF PPR. All the Chuan plots, Bayshore easily bidded like 1300 plus per square foot per plot ratio. How can this location be only 1154 per square foot per plot ratio? Now, for those unfamiliar and with some context, the break-even brings it up to somewhere around 2026 per square foot, 2026 per square foot. Then you add another 8% for harmonized effect, you get like 2188 per square foot. So if you use the conventional 10 to 20% profit margin, it should bring you somewhere within a range of like 2406 to 2625 per square foot. Again, this is just a guesstimation. Developers got it at a lower price also doesn't mean you should sell it at a lower range lah. They might capitalize on getting it cheap by making more profit out of it, who knows. But let's try to use Guacoland's past two project as a gauge, shall we? Springleaf Residences, after calculating break-even plus harmonized, brought us to around like 1823 per square foot per plot ratio break-even, not PPR lah, sorry, just 1823 per square foot break-even. 2175 per square foot average on day one constitute to close to about 20% profit margin. Now, Landlord mentioned land cost break-even with harmonized effect stood at like 1940 per square foot. The average starting price was at about 2280 per square foot, which also translates to 18% profit margin, which is quite close to 20% also lah. So if you believe a little bit on history repeating itself, then we could also see an average per square foot of around 2650 PSF for Penrith, which is 20% profit margin. Now, this is based solely on me estimating, so please don't quote me if it's higher or lower lah. Okay, right, so as usual, I'll use my QPE framework to give you the answer why this is my launch of second half 2025. First circle, quality. Part number one, land size, facilities, and facade. Now, 103,000 square feet land, 2 buildings of 40-story highs overlooking north-south. Total 462 units, no one bedrooms, only 2 to 4 bedroom types. As usual, the ADDP Architects plus Guacoland combo is highly predictable. Greens, 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 and just more greens lah. Brown color building, dark theme, and still more greens. Point being, ADDP Architect plus Guacoland, then you are in safe hands lah. Now, there's only one small little downside is that 100,000 square feet land is unfortunately not that big as compared to the rest of the neighboring plots, but it is definitely sizable enough. Now, this setup, when I first saw it, reminds me of one condo. One condo just came to my mind, and that's Mayor Rise along Mayor Road. Oh? Don't like, right? But of course, given the land size isn't too big, you got pretty much whatever that you might need. Tennis court, which is a very surprising addition. Car park, 81.3%, provision to be exact, 376 car park lots. Sky terraces on both buildings with an outdoor dining setup with what they call an observation deck, or whatever you call it lah. I usually just call this corner the hardly used corner except the barbecue pit. Outdoor reading lounge. So that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, who wants to go all the way up to read something and just go home and sleep? Living in Singapore is really very tiring. Now, of course, you got like the usual stuff, gym, 2 function rooms, games room. So actually for first point of land size, facilities and facade, have the developers and architect ever failed us? Now, second point, layout, and I got a bit of feedback that I spent a bit too much time on going through harmonized layouts that are very repetitive these days. I'll try to see how I can shorten this in a different format today. And to set the parameters right, I am only going to use Sterling Residences and Commonwealth Tower as a form of comparison. I will not use Margaret View or Queen's Peak, not because of anything, but because their sizes there are incredibly small. I mean, the layout is okay, is pretty big, size is big, but the rooms are smaller. And most of their bedrooms can only fit in a single size bed, which is a big deal breaker at the end of the day. So So you don't believe me? You track both prices at Queen's Peak and Commonwealth Towers. Granted, both makes money. They're located beside one another, side by side, both on top of MRT, but one makes more money than the other. If you dig deeper, you will find out the reason what really separates the two. So first up, 2 bed, 1 bath, 614 square feet. This surprisingly is much bigger than the size I was expecting, like around 527 square feet. Why? Because 90% of the Guacoland X project all fit like kind of sizable dumbbell layout in that size lah, allowing you to eventually achieve an affordable quantum. Now my guess why this is slightly bigger is because the layout is like a conventional layout, so there's like additional space gone to the rooms of the corridor, and also the slightly longer than usual entrance. Nothing much to take note of here as usual, as there's no windows to the toilets and all. 614 square feet times 2, 650 per square feet, $1.6 million. Now Sterling Residences and Commonwealth Towers are both transacting theirs at 1.5. So if we are gonna average at $1.62 million, that is okay, but nothing really to shout out about lah. Remember, this is the average price, not on the lower end and also not on the higher end. It's right in the middle. Just in case some of you who PM me previously didn't understand what average is lah. Okay, next up, the 2 bed, 2 bath, 678 square feet, dumbbell layout with semi-enclosed kitchen. Very neat and efficient layout, similar to certain units at Sterling Residences. No windows, rightfully so since it's not a corner unit. Now, notice how a dumbbell layout can allow you to eliminate wasted space. You will start to understand that very shortly. Now, 678 times 2, 650 per square foot, which is about 1.79, 1.8 lah, round up. Sterling Residences and Commonwealth Tower does theirs at between $1.75 million to $1.8 million. Now you see the difference? The price is slowly on par as the harmonized effect starts to show its advantage. Now it means that the average price of 2,650 per square foot, you might really be getting a brand new property legit similar to resale price. If you go for even lower floor, what might happen? Even cheaper than resale lor. So next up, the smallest 3-bedroom, because Penrith doesn't have any 2+ studies, 786 square feet. I was actually expecting this to be like the semi-dumbbell layout like the one at Springleaf, but unfortunately we are getting a conventional one, but nevertheless still pretty efficient. And as per every property at Pocket View, even though this is likely my launch of second half 2025, I have to call it for what it is. The one very obvious flaw in my opinion for Penrith, before I forget, the common bedroom size is not 9 square meter, because unfortunately it is also not 10 square meter, it is 8 square meter. Which means that it kind of like just crossed the bare minimum for you to put in a queen size bed. It is also this minimum or benchmark that our dear friends at Margaretville and Queen's Peak kind of missed out. That's why they are not on this list of comparisons instantly. So back to it, surprisingly they were still able to fit in everything nicely to a 786 square feet. Rooms are still queen, king, but just everything a little bit tighter lah. Now all toilets and kitchen got window, not bad. Besides the slightly smaller than usual rooms, and lucky still can fit in a queen, this is actually a very neat layout. So 786 times 2,650 per square foot, that brings us like $2.08 million. 3-bedroom compact at Sterling and Commonwealth are trading at between $2.2 to $2.4 million. Safe to say, this average per square foot will put it below the 2, giving you some sort of like safety net, because this price is actually much closer to the 2+ study selling price at Sterling Residences, which is trading between $1.9 to $2 million. So far so good. So far so good. Okay, next one is the slightly larger 3-bedroom compact at 850 square feet. Basically, this is just like more space in the entrance and maybe a slightly larger living dining, marginally, but definitely more cabinet space in the kitchen. Other than that, everything resembles the smaller 786 square feet. So 850 times 2,650 per square foot, that brings us to somewhere closer to $2.25 million, which is in line with what you are probably paying at Sterling and Commonwealth Tower. In fact, even cheaper than the ones at Sterling still. So the question many will ask is, do I really need to potentially pay 180 to 200k more for the additional space in the entrance or the slightly larger kitchen? Well, that's really up to you to decide now. Because the next one is what I call the olden days 3 Premium, which is a 936 square feet. That comes with a yard door, WC, definitely a much wider dining space and a bigger master. It is the classic proper 3-bedroom. Now, the one that everyone will most probably go for because the size is just nice. Why? I tell you why. 936 times 2650 per square foot brings you to $2.48 million. And what is Sterling and Commonwealth trading theirs at? Between 2.6 to $2.8 million for their 3 premium unit. Now imagine if 2650 per square foot is the average price and you get something even lower than that. Not attractive enough, meh? Hence, I expect this to probably move the fastest, and it's a layout that will not have much objections except for the room lah. But at least still can put in queen size bed lah. Next up, the 1066 square feet, the largest 3-bedroom in Penrith. Now, when I first saw the size spread on the fact sheet, I was thinking this might be like a 3+ study, but unfortunately it turned out to just be a normal 3-bedroom that looks exactly like the 936 square feet, but just with a even much wider dining space again, a wider kitchen again, and a master bedroom that has like its own walk-in wardrobe. So those with deeper pockets will definitely favor this, but at what price difference potentially? So let's see. 1066 square feet times 2650 per square foot, boom, $2.83 million, which is close to potentially 350 to 400k difference between this and the smaller 936 square feet. Means that you pay the extra for a much larger master kitchen and a wider dining space. Now, is that worth it? You be the judge. The 4-bedroom next, 1173 square feet, poultry layout that looks a bit like the one at Lentor Central Residences, except one of the bedrooms is like facing the back, so that the corridor walkway is like a little bit lesser. Very clean, very neat. Every part of the house that ideally needs a window has one. Now, I find this one better than the one at Springleaf and Lentor Mansion because even though the size is a bit smaller, you really do get everything that you will need in a 4-bedroom. Obviously, the 4 bedrooms, they'll leave the premium facings for it. 1173 square feet times 2650 per square foot, which brings us to like $3.1 million. Sterling Residences is already selling theirs at between 3.4 to 3.6, while Commonwealth only sold theirs, their last 4 billion at like $3 million, which I think in a matter of time will just touch 3.2 to 3.3 lah. So at 3.1, what's there to complain? Just wait off. Which brings us to the creme de la creme, the largest unit in the entire development, the 1281 square feet 4-bedroom with 3 toilets plus 1. The most plus 1 is the WC lah. Nowadays, anything under 1,300 square feet 4-bedroom usually can only accommodate 2 toilets. This one got 3 toilets. And guess what? It got the landscape layout. Okay? Listen power. Okay? Confirm best layout. Kitchen is like glass up overlooking the wide living and dining space. Only thing set is bedrooms, still 8 square meters. But it's okay lah. Still can fit in queen size bed. This is the best 4-bedroom layout I have seen Guacoland come up with in recent years after their Lentor modern 4-bedroom. Not too big, not too small, just nice. Okay, so what's the damage like? 1281 times 2650, $3.4 million, which means again, as mentioned, Sterling is already transacting at 3.4 to 3.6. You are legit paying for a brand new property at a resale price, or if not lower. So how? Expensive? Not really, unless you want to buy over a certain level to clear any potential blockage in the future. That's a different thing. I will cover that in a bit. All in all, the layouts are what you will come to expect of Guacoland. Very efficient. Space is not too big that it's going to burn a hole in your pocket. Nothing to really complain about except the rooms are 8 square meter. I absolutely love the 936 square feet and the 1173 and 1281 square feet. I think these 3 are the choice picks in all honesty. As for pricing, the per square foot of 2650 per square foot will still make the entry level more in line with resale properties like Sterling and Commonwealth Towers. Heck, even possibly cheaper than them if it falls below the average per square foot that I have projected. I will summarize these points again at the conclusion. Point number 3, location, MRT and amenities. Look, it is a short walk to Queenstown MRT via the Park Connector, and because it's located literally in a row of HDB clusters, now with HDB presence, you also get convenience. And everyone knows Queenstown. Well, unless you dislike the presence of HDBs around you, then this is as good as it gets. No one ever doubts this location. Point number 4, views. Alright, when I saw the plot of land when it came out for sale last year, I can almost guess that the buildings would like orientate towards north-south because no developer do it east-west. On the southern side, unfortunately, your views are relatively blocked. Even if the HDBs right in front of you is shorter, the one at a distance will almost certainly still block you. So nothing to shout out on the southern side. Now the northern side, it's a different story altogether. Right now, it is relatively clear, but you need to understand the change in the master plan recently. Now the plots right in front are not slated for residential, but the ones behind comes with a plot ratio of 2.1 on the left and on the right, which means the building, whether it's a HDB or private, can go up to 24 stories. So in other words, if you're looking for an unblocked view all the way to the Holland area, then you might want to explore getting the higher floors of like more than 28 stories. I mean, even on low floor to mid floor, it's okay. It isn't that bad because the developments there are at a distance, but you got what I'm trying to say lah. Depends on what you really want and what you value, but do take note of what might come in front so that you are not like left shocked when you have a building built right in front of you that blocks you eventually. So all in all, for the circle of quality, plot is not too big but sizable enough. Typical Guaco land kind of standard. Layouts are highly efficient. Pricing even at 20% profit margin still makes it look pretty affordable against competition. Views are more or less expected in a cluster like Queenstown where buildings are all like super tall. So circle number 1, quality, I'm not too worried. Which brings me to circle number 2, and this is the biggest reason why Penrith has to be my launch of second half 2025 if the price doesn't go too crazy. The exit strategy. Now, point number 1, supply demand. The Queenstown area doesn't have that many to really compare with. You have I think 5 in total, 4 pretty new ones and 1 very old. Stirling, Queen's Peak, Commonwealth Towers, Margaretville, and the older Queens. Now, Penrith will be the 6th addition to the neighborhood and it's also going to be the first harmonized project there. Some agents say it's the last plot of GLS. It is not like. As what I mentioned in the view there, potentially in the future, you have few more plot of land coming up. But for people who tend to look at Queenstown will also visit those at Red Hill. Over there also have plenty of options, but I don't know, most of the feedback somehow is that they prefer the Queenstown area more. What do you guys think? Maybe the buildings there at Red Hill, they are really freaking tall and they are more like concentrated buildings upwards rather than sideways. It's only across the road along the Prince Charles Crescent where you have the Crest, Principal Gardens and Tanglin View, you have more land. But organically around the cluster of Queenstown, there isn't much to really fight with. And to be very honest, your true competitions are really that of Stirling residences and Commonwealth Towers. Those who explore there or frequent there or understand the neighborhood well will know that. Now, point number 2, transformation. Now, there's ongoing talks of transforming the big area north of Penrith with all the residential plots slated to come up in the coming years, but that's really not like any noteworthy sort of transformation. Probably just increasing the housing supply to cope with demand. Beyond that, Queenstown is a relatively mature estate, so transformation happens more for upcoming townships and like hubs. Doesn't concern Queenstown one bit because not as if we need one. Point number 3, schools. If I'm not wrong, there's only one school within the 1 km radius of Penrith and that's Queenstown Primary. Does it really concern me? No, because the Queenstown is not famed for parents wanting to get into the neighborhood. In fact, in that area, probably the most sought after school should be Radin Mas, and that's a totally different area already. Correct me if I'm wrong, I stand corrected. Red Hill, Commonwealth, Clementi, even, the ones away from Nanhua and Queenstown, you don't really see much tiger mums and that over there. Fair enough? Fair, right? So, point number 4, target audience. Now, this is the greatest selling point of Queenstown, which is also very similar to the selling point of Clementi or like Ang Mo Kio. Highly sought after mature estate in an RCR location, very centrally located. Okay, I'm not saying Ang Mo Kio is in an RCR location, but you get my point about mature estates that plenty of locals want to live in it. And because the crowd at Queenstown are in a more well-to-do area, naturally the transitioning of a HDB to a private can be made much easier. Now, remember I mentioned the example of Bidadari owners potentially unlocking 8 to 900k of proceeds. I repeat again, proceeds, not profits. from the sale of their HDB flats, I believe the Queenstown HDB owners will unlock anywhere between $800 to $1.1 million in proceeds after selling their HDB at like maybe $1.4 to $1.5 million. Now, when you're armed with a war chest of between $800 to $1.1 million, and if your loan qualifies for it, it allows you to comfortably afford a down payment of between 2.8 all the way to $3.7 million. And that's how well-to-do most of the newer HDB owners there are doing or performing. And given they are very comfortable with the location, then the natural upgrade will be something similar in the neighborhood itself. Penrith checks that out. Now, I still remember back then in 2018 when I was looking at buying something for myself, I remember vividly that I was torn between choosing Jadescape or Sterling Residences. Now, to me, both are very solid products. But what stood out for me was very simple. The prices of HDB in that area and what it entails to eventually. It was like, I remember $1.65 million at Jadescape, 3-bedroom. Premium, very cheap, right? Come to think of it. Versus a $1.75 million 3 premium at Sterling Residences. A top up of only $100K into an area that the exit strategy is even better. Then the answer was obvious lah. So it is the same now. The prices at Queenstown hasn't come off one bit in terms of HDB prices. In fact, it's going higher and higher and higher and higher than ever. Now, when Penrith TOP Sterling would already be like, I think 8-9 years old, while the rest is like much older. Now, then with the combination of a Guacoland product, do you think the exit is clear? It is very clear, bruh. Hence, the circle of exit strategy is the biggest selling point of Penrith. If you come at it and object against it, then you are certainly going to be the minority. Now, in conclusion, if the price hits the average per square foot or lower than what I have set up in this entire episode, 2,650 per square foot, this is my launch of second half 2025, beating the likes of Zion Grand, Promenade Peak, Springleaf, River Green Upper House, Faber Residences. Is that all? Linden Woods? That's all I think so. But it doesn't mean that every single unit you buy at Penrith is much better. Now, let me explain. If today I'm given a choice between investing in a very high floor Penrith versus a very low floor entry level at Springleaf, or let's say Faber Residences, okay, 3-bedroom premium unit at $2.5 to $2.6 million high floor versus a 4-bedroom at the other two, I think I will lean at the other two, 4 bedrooms. So my definition of new launch 2025 or second half of 2025 is just to tell you that this project attributes and price points, if you compare like for like on the lower end spectrum versus a lower end spectrum apple to apple comparisons, then this wins hands down. You don't go and take a super high price unit here to compare with a lower entry at the others and still think you have made a better investment choice. That's not my point. My point is that even though Penrith is a very solid pick for me, remember what I always say, 30% of you will get a very good price, another 30% will have gotten a fair price, and another 40% who are probably going to be in the range of being too lavish. You just need to understand your position. What are you buying this for? Because I speak purely from an investment point of view. No emotions, not gonna stay there. I also don't even want to stay there. Just purely about making money. So don't just listen to my bullshit about just buying low floor if you are someone who is buying for own use and want only higher floor. Just trying to find a balance because I always have a walkaway price, a good price, and a normal price. Those of you who are in my Telegram group long enough or who have been working with me for the longest time will know my style. I will cut through all the bullshit and tell you for what it is, because I'm someone who will probably want to talk, put myself in your shoes, and I will do something that will advise my clients to do so if I were you. But what if the developers want to support everyone and launch between 2,007 to 3,000 per square foot? Is it going to be worthwhile still? Second half launch of 2025? No, I'll just retrack it very quickly like how I did for Parktown Residences, because always remember there's a price to pay for anything that is good. So please buy safe, guys. I'll see you.